Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. Guys, we got a fantastic show for you this evening, like always. But first, we are broadcasting live from the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. All right, guys. Tonight's guest, and we're going to get right into it. Also, FYI, I'm going to let you know, I'm rolling a little solo. My sidekick, too nice to be mean, Mr. Chris Green, has got the night off. So my guys over the comment section, all you guys, it's just going to be me. So we're going to get those questions ready and warmed up for tonight's guest, because we do got a good one, okay? She is a best-selling author, speaker, and spiritual catalyst. And let's see, an animal communicator. Now, that has got me intrigued right off the bat. I cannot wait to talk to her about that. And an energy healer and a contactee. So if you guys, let's get a warm welcome for tonight's guest, Lori-Ann Spagna.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, awesome. Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Yes, yes. Well, I tell you what, I can already tell, and the chat room's already excited. We got our regs over here. We got the $6 Million Man. We got Mrs. Live Light, and they're going to have some fantastic questions for you. But before we get to the questions, first, if you don't mind, will you kind of introduce yourself a little better than what I did at least?
Yeah, well, you did a great job there, Danny. My name is Lori Spagna. I've been working for about 20 years in the esoteric realm, so to speak. I help humans and animals to align with the energy that we are, the true energy that we are, which is that we're magnificent beings of love, of light, of consciousness. And this helps us to live our best lives, to become the best versions of ourselves, of who we're truly meant to be. So it's like clearing energy blocks, beliefs and belief systems and emotional feelings and patterns that aren't serving us, and realigning us energetically with the beings that we truly are meant to be, our most magnificent best. Yeah. So we can make life on Earth better.
So what kind of got you into this? Where did it kind of start there with you? And first of all, what's the doggie's name?
Her name is Emma. She just almost always comes on for a little while and just hangs out when I do shows. So yeah, Emma.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah,
we've got a chocolate lab named Boba who he tries to make his appearance on the show constantly. We may hear him for the show's over.
If you're happy, they're happy. So if you're enjoying what you're doing, they just love to be on you. Like they love the energy of the enjoyment, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think there's something true magical.
Yeah, they totally feel all that. It's all energy to them. That's their language. So I know whenever I'm happy or whenever I'm excited, whenever I'm doing like something that I know I enjoy, she feels that. She likes to be part of it, It's always like
awesome.
That. Yeah.
Well, so where did it kind of start with you?
I'll tell you the story. The long and short of it was, out of college, I was working in corporate America. Pretty much from week one, I was like, this is slavery. It sucks. I was not happy for the first 20 years of my life out of college. Like I developed all kinds of really unhealthy coping mechanisms because I was so miserable. So I was smoking excessively and drinking excessively and eating excessively, sexing, spending excessively, going to doctor. My thyroid was falling, like was off, and my hair was falling out, and I couldn't get to sleep at night, and I couldn't wake up in the morning, and yeah, excessive coffee, all of it. So I was going to doctors, and they were pumping me up with excessive pharmaceutical drugs, of course, as the solution, and nothing was working. And I was just so unhappy. I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to kill myself, but I just don't, this is not how I want to live. And what ended up happening there was that my brother died of a drug overdose, and I started getting messages from him. And I really didn't know that I could do that at that time. I really didn't know that I had that ability. So I wasn't even sure if I was like making it up. It took me about a year to unpack it, to like tune in, like, is this real? Like, to work with it. And I realized like it was, and he was basically saying to me, like, on the first thing, he was like, I need help to cross over. Like in a sense, because he committed suicide, he got like trapped, and we call it the bardos or purgatory, or just energy. Like he got trapped in there and needed help. But the big message was like, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. Like, you think you're escaping this? It's not going to work for you. You have to change. So that's where it all started. And then from there, I quit my job. I became a dog trainer because I wanted to help animals. I always wanted to help animals. And that opportunity presented itself. And right away, I started getting messages from animals. And they were saying, you listen to us and we're going to teach you. So within a year of all of that happening, I ended up moving to Maui. That's where the real change started happening. So I got into esoteric practices, energy healing, learning how to work with energy. And I started using energy to heal myself, to heal animals. And then I know we'll talk about this more, but that led to a near-death experience energetically, not like in a physical, not in a hospital setting, and then that led to a first contact experience. So I know we'll talk about that today, but that's where it all started. I just want to wrap this part of it by saying, within the 2 years like that I moved to Maui, all of those things were gone. Like, I had 6 figures in credit card debt. That was gone. I was like, all the smoking was gone. All the alcohol gone. All the pharmaceutical drugs gone. I lost 60 pounds of body weight. I changed the way I ate. I healed my thyroid. My hair grew back in. That was the beginning. After that, that was the beginning of what became my business, like what I do for a living now. So that's where it all started, right? Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, now that seems like, so you wind up losing your brother kind of young. Mm-hmm. And you said that was the first experience to where he kind of made contact with you.
Yeah.
And was it like something? Well, I talk about on the show all the time, Lori, about how if you are aware and your ears and eyes are open, you can communicate with people who have passed. They're communicating with you all the time. And so I loved it. I think that's fantastic. That's how it kind of started with you. But with the animals now, because this is interesting, because there's something there's something magical there between people and animals. And did you kind of feel like the animals were communicating with you as well?
Well, the way I see it is, I think that was always part of what I call my soul's divine agenda. I think that's what I came here for. And I think that would have been an inevitable outcome of like me getting aligned with my right path. But yes, ever since childhood, that was my mantra. I wanted to be of service to animals. So as soon as when my brother transitioned, it's the same. The way you would communicate with a so-called dead person is pretty much the same way you would communicate telepathically with any other living being. So once that was happening, I was already just being able to do it. But animals, they communicate through a different brainwave frequency. Like right now, we're using a beta brainwave, but they communicate through what's a frequency, a brainwave of theta brainwave. They can also use alpha brainwave, but it's just different brainwave patterns. So it's the same thing also if we're communicating with someone who's a loved one who has crossed over. It's a different brainwave. And anyone can learn how to do that. Getting good at it over time, practicing, is another thing. The other thing I want to say is that we are using primarily our left analytical brain, and animals typically use more of their right awareness brain. So they communicate differently, but it's easily learned, and over time can be you can get really good at it. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it's something, and I think all animals are much more emotional intelligent than what I was ever taught. And now, like I just mentioned, my dog Boba. He's so smart. It blows me away. Like we've got some little dogs, and we'll say, Boba, go get Ruby inside, and he'll run out there and nudge her. We've never taught him that.
Yes.
He wasn't trained to do that.
Yes.
It's just insane to me how smart they are.
Yeah. I mean, they're highly intuitive. Look at her. They're highly intuitive. They're so consciously aware. They don't have to logic things the way we do. It's a knowing. It's like they just know. And one of the best examples I use to help people understand this is like if I mention flowers or roses, you weren't just thinking about flowers or roses. But the moment I said it, immediately you're like, flowers? Oh, roses. What color? Red, yellow. Like the moment I say it, you just have the awareness of those things. If I say like Australia, you weren't thinking about that 2 moments ago, but the moment oh, there it is. So that's kind of a huge way that animals communicate. They just have this awareness. Oh, that's the energy my dad feels today. Oh, Rosa, if that's the other dog's name. Oh, he's thinking of her. He's saying, let me go do it. They just pick it up. They just know. They have more knowing, and they have more, yes, like intuitive awareness. Then it's not that we don't have it. It's that we have to learn to develop it.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to develop it and utilize it.
I want to tell, we do got our first question, and I'm going to get that up here in a second. I do want to say that I think this is kind of a funny story, so I got to tell this real quick, and it's about my cat. Okay, we're dogs and cat people. Okay, and our cat Harrison. I found this just I thought this was hysterical, but it also kind of blew my mind how smart this was. Well, apparently, my daughter had failed to clean the litter box when she was supposed to clean the litter box. You know how cats will be. They're like, if that litter box isn't spotless, I'm not using it. So we came home one evening, and there was a bag of, used to be unopened litter, but apparently Harrison tore the bag open and took a crap in the bag. So instead of, he's like, I'm not using this litter box, but hey, I know what's inside this bag. I'm going to take a crap in the bag. So I just thought, how they're so much more smarter than what we think. And I think you're right. Their awareness, intelligence is so much more. But here, let's get to this. We got our first question here for you. I'm going to get this up here, Lori. This is from Live Light. She is one of our all-time great questionnaires, and she usually sends stuff that gets me tongue twisted. And the night is young, by the way, folks. She'll send something. But here's the question. Hi, Danny. Welcome, Lori. Are animals our guardians?
Yeah, love that. Well, thanks for that question, Liv. I would say, they look at us as their guardians. We're here to guard them, but in a way, you could say that. I mean, I don't disagree with that. The way I see it is that we are here to learn with them. They're also here to learn with us, to have experiences together, but they are also teaching us, and they are also healing us. And the way that they teach us a lot of times is they're behaving in accordance with the energy that's in the home or in the environment. So like a dog, for example, or a cat who had anxiety, that's usually there's anxiety in the household. And they're here maybe healing it, trying to take it on, trying to neutralize it, or showing us, hey, we need to address this. Or like excessive aggression could mean there's aggression in the household, or unresolved issues. Maybe there's not aggression in the household, but there might be suppressed anger or something that's not being properly addressed. So these are just a couple of examples, but the point is that they become our teachers and also our healers. And so from the perspective that Liv's asking, are they our guardians? In a way they are. Like we're here working together in ways that we're not always fully conscious of. so that we can together learn and grow and evolve. Yeah.
I totally get down with that. Now, do you go, like, have you, what is that one show? It's like the Dog Whisperer or something. Do you do kind of stuff like that? You go to people's homes and communicate and let them kind of know what's going on with their pets?
Not so much. I don't really go to their homes. I can do it by, video just like this. I
Gotcha.
usually, because telepathy, when you're communicating telepathically with an animal, it's never about time or space. You don't need the animal to be present. It's just a matter of finding in what we would call consciousness or energy, that animal's signature, or the essence of that animal, inviting them to connect with you, making the invitation. And then they always say yes. Animals always say yes. Not every time, but pretty much. And then just asking, what is it that I'm meant to know? Or maybe there's some specific questions, or what do you want your human to know? And then I'm the translator, right? So, but I can do it anywhere. Yeah. And the animal doesn't have to be alive either. They can be physically have departed and left their physical body, but the essence and their consciousness is eternal. So you can communicate with them even after they've crossed over.
Well, I got to be honest, like I said, I do love animals. I love all animals, but there's one video that you can go see, and I don't advise you to watch it if you like to eat steaks. But have you seen the one with the cow playing soccer with the children out in the field?
No, I haven't seen
It is
that.
it is the sweetest thing you'll ever see in your life, and you'll never be able to eat meat again if you watch this. So, but I'm just like, that is one of the sweetest
Then I
videos.
advise it. Then I advise people go watch that, because
Oh,
cows are so loving and kind, and we don't realize. Like, I'll never forget this time I went to and I was at an animal sanctuary, a rescue animal sanctuary, to do healing on the animals there. And so I went up to this cow that had this like benign tumor under. It was like the energy of a male, even though it was a cow, but he had this. So I referred him as a male, even though it was a cow, and he had this anyway, this benign big tumor growth under the chin. And when I walked up to him and approached him, and I'm sorry I keep calling him a him because I know it was a female, but the energy was male. And he said, "Oh, I'm just an old cow. Don't waste your time on me. Go find somebody else. Help one of the other animals." And I was like immediately in love with this cow. Like, oh my God, I love you so much. No, I want to work with you. Please, will you let me? Is it okay? And he was like, okay, this is the weight of all the other cows that died before me that I'm taking on. And he said, clear it. Like, he was basically saying, if you can heal for all those cows, maybe I can heal. And so I worked with him for a while. And afterwards, and I didn't know any of his story. Afterwards, I went to the people at the sanctuary and I said, this is what this cow said to me. And they said, well, that's exactly right. We rescued that
wow.
cow from a sanctuary. He was the last cow rescued right before they closed. Not from a sanctuary, from a slaughterhouse right before they closed. I didn't
Wow.
know that.
Well, we're always at least kind of taught, or it's just kind of the stereotype that you think cows are these dumb, beasts. And no, they're smart and emotionally connected. And, they like to play just like your dogs do and your cats do. And I was just like, wow,
Yeah,
that is the sweetest thing I've ever seen. You just want to go
yeah.
up and hug it. Um,
I mean, you think it
well,
serves the food industry to make sure that we think that way.
of
Right?
course, of course, I mean, it's kind of one of those things, you follow the buck, you'll get your answer.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Well, let's talk about this real quick, because you did talk about, when you moved to Maui, which, somebody had mentioned in the chat, Maui is a magical place. But you said a lot of things really changed, when you went to Maui. That's whenever a lot of things kind of amped up. What exactly did you mean there?
Well, when I went to Maui, one of the very first things I did was I got my Reiki master. And if you're familiar with Reiki, Reiki is just a process of energy healing for anyone who might not be aware. And that started to really clear me out. So I was on a very accelerated path of like energy healing. And I didn't really even understand it at the time. I didn't really understand any of it. But from there, what happened was I got involved in this energy healing practitioners circle that I went to. And I would go there every week. And I was studying with this master energy worker who had spent years in the Himalayan mountains learning how to use energy, and who himself had a near death, several, like I think seven, in fact, I up until that point, 7 near death experiences, and one of which he was like banging on the freezer in the morgue, right? These are documented cases. So he was teaching us how to use energy and all kinds of things, like throw energy at each other and knock each other over with energy, and how to like levitate ourselves through the room, and all kinds of,
Really?
yeah. I mean, one of his students already teletransporting. So I was in those circles every week, and I didn't know initially what was really happening to me, because you don't really know when you start working with this, but you do know that it feels really good, and like it's only good. It's all good. So that's where it started. But what ended up happening from there was that while I was in Maui, my most beloved dog, Kenya, she died. And I will never forget, because I was heartbroken. Like, I wasn't ready for that. I just wasn't ready for it. So I went to that class one of the Thursday nights, and I was like crying, and I'm like, please, can you just help me to know, like, where is she? Just help me to connect with her. And so, like, out of the goodness of his heart, what he did was he put me in the middle of the room. There were like 20 people around me, and they were all doing the energy work that we were being taught to do. And he basically, I don't, back then, I don't really know. I didn't know what he was doing. I had no idea. I was in just complete trust. But what I think I know now is that he was able to activate the DMT in my brain. Are you familiar with what that is?
Absolutely.
Right. So when a person or an animal dies, DMT is activated in the brain that puts them in a state of euphoric bliss, so they can drop the body and make their transition without pain, which is like a beautiful gift of God, right? In a sense, like when the body dies, you go into such a bliss state that you can just drop it, and you don't have to die. You don't have to be in pain, and you're not dying, because consciousness never dies. So that's what happened to me, essentially. I'm in the middle of the room. I don't know what happened. 3 seconds later, I was dead. As far as I knew, I was dead. Everything in the physical world dropped away. And I met up with my dog, and there she was in consciousness. Like, all I had to do was have the thought for her to be there. And she was like, Mommy, I'm okay. I love you so much. Please be happy. Please have fun. And there were other relatives who came too, like people that I knew. And they were like, okay, this is for you to know there's no such thing as death. And we're all here, and we continue on, and it's time for you to go back. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to go back. Like, that's how I was. I was like, this is awesome. I don't want to go back. And they were like, but your other dogs are waiting for you. And I'm like, they'll be fine. That's what it's like. You're just so blissed out. There's no problems. There's no worries. They'll be fine. They're like, no, they're waiting for you. I'm like, they'll be fine. Anyway, I'm sure it's taking too long. But he snapped his fingers at a certain point in time. I was back in my body. And all I knew was that was like awesome, right? And the rest of the people in the room were just touching me with their fingers, because the energy was so powerful, so beyond love, so beyond bliss. So their bodies were just kind of going into these kind of ecstatic states. And I mean, that was where I started learning how to use energy and consciousness.
Well, let me do this, because I actually was going to ask this question, but Liv kind of beat me here. She's got another question here for you. In a blog, you mentioned 77 minutes of pure bliss. Can you expand on this experience, which I think you kind of just did a little bit, but can we all activate DMT without drugs or ceremonies? Great question, Liv. I was going to ask her the same thing, because I'm familiar with a lot of people taking DMT to have this experience. But how did you get there?
Okay. So first, the 77 minutes of pure bliss that's a DNA activations webinar. So I do that regularly with people, because we didn't talk about DNA yet, but all of us have at least 12 strands of DNA. 2 right now are active, right? And they're kind of corrupted, because they have like your genetics and your ancestral lineage stuff. And when I say they're corrupted, it includes like diseases, things that run in your family that are maybe, problematic, right? That's why I call them corrupted. That can be healed and resolved, all of that, like everything from your ancestral lineage, even if science doesn't necessarily know that yet, because that's the healing arts. The other 10 strands are unclaimed, untapped potential, pure potential, and they're dormant. So when you go into states of energetic bliss where you're still fully conscious, you're aligning with certain frequencies and energies where the divine is more readily accessible. It's flowing through you, it's radiating out through you and emanating through you, so that when you get to those frequencies, you're in so much bliss that you can start telling your DNA to activate certain codes. They're all stored in that DNA. That's what live is referring to, and that's an easy thing to experience, although it's not possible for somebody who has no idea about it or doesn't participate or tries to do it with their brain, because it is not something you can do with your brain. It's far beyond the use of brain. It's energetic, and it requires consciousness, and to me it's a spiritual practice. Now, the other part of the question that Liv was asking, can we all activate DMT without drugs or ceremonies? And I'm not an expert at activating DMT. So, but my knowing is that it can be done without drugs. My knowing is that ceremony is part of the process. My knowing is that we all have infinite potential and infinite capacities, but I wouldn't necessarily advocate. You don't need to activate the DMT. You don't need to do that to connect with loved ones who have crossed over. You don't need to do that to get into states of bliss. You don't need to do that to heal yourself, to learn how to use energy, to transform your life experience. You can do that through certain sacred practices that are easy, enjoyable, totally healthy, require zero harm to you or anyone else.
So okay, and but with you, it was almost like a ceremony that you went through, that you said he released the DMT.
It was just an initial part of my journey that helped me get to where I'm at, right? It was part of the near death experience that I had. And that's how I unpack it. If I had asked him if that was what he was doing at that time, I don't know that that's what he would have said. He was
Gotcha.
using energy to get me into a state that was beyond physical, right?
Now, for somebody who maybe wanted to try to experience what you did, would you recommend seeing, somebody who has experience in holding something like that?
I would recommend people join me for the 77 minutes of pure bliss and DNA activations. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
And that doesn't
Well,
require any kind of drugs or nothing unhealthy. It's all healthy and zero harm. It's beyond basic meditation, way beyond that. And it doesn't require any
gotcha,
it's
gotcha.
easy, effortless, enjoyable, healthy, all good.
Well, I don't meditate, but there was a time period where I dabbled in a little bit, and I always talk about this. I actually had an out of body experience one time while meditating, and it freaked me out, though. I'm going to be honest, because I didn't get too far into it before I was like, wait a minute, I don't feel like I'm in control here. And it creeped me out a little bit. And I snapped out of it, and it was almost like, the way I could kind of explain it, it was just like you're floating off in an ocean, and you want that safety raft or something to grab onto, but the current was just kind of taking me wherever it wanted to go, and I had no say so. And I remember at first I was like, this is really cool, this is really happening, oh my gosh. And then I was like, oh no, it scared me to death. But I tell you what, this is what I want to do, Lori. We're getting ready, going to have to cut to a commercial break here. And but when we come back, I want you to talk to a little. You said you kind of had a contact, there with your near death energy experience there, and I'd like you to touch on that and some of the other topics. We'd love to get to, because there's so much to talk to you with. But I tell you what, guys, just sit still, get your questions ready. We're going to be back with Lori Spagna right after these messages.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, we are back. And if you guys are just now tuning in, we have been talking with Lori Spagna. And let's see, I believe, where did we pick up? We were talking about the, your near-death experience. And you said you made contact. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, those were two separate occasions. But what happens is when somebody has a near-death experience, the light that we are, because in truth, we're energy and consciousness. We're perceiving ourselves through a physical body. We believe and perceive that we're in this physical world. But in reality, the light that we are, that is consciousness and energy, that lights up when we drop this physicality, the physical experience. So it just was that more other beings in the realms of the physical, non-physical became more consciously aware of me, right? So one of the things that teacher would ask us to do was to meditate through the night. He used to tell us, meditate through the night without going to sleep. And he would give us different practices. So at that time I was living in Maui and I lived on the golf course in Pukalani. And I would just meditate through the night on my back porch. And this particular night, it was probably about 2:00 in the morning. And, I was lucid up, sitting up, meditating. And at one point I just opened my eyes and there was like, a ship. It was really low, very low to the ground, doing circular movement. And I knew it wasn't a plane. It was moving in circles. It was also 2:00 in the morning. The airports were closed. This was like way before like the satellites that we had. And anyway, I had worked in the cable industry, so I knew what satellites were. I knew how satellites moved. It wasn't that. So at that time when that happened, this was all like pre 2012. I had this very naive idea that these ETs were going to come and they were all going to help us. And that's what I thought. I mean, I was just very naive. And I was already doing telepathy. So all I had to do was just think it and project it in a sense like, oh, like you're here to help us. Like if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Like I'd like to help. That's how naive I was. But instantly, in a sense, the next thing I knew, I was on that ship. And the thing was, I wasn't like physical in the way that we're physical. I wasn't like carbon physical, made up of carbon. It was like a weird kind of etheric, like light energy. It's like almost like etheric energy, right? Is the best way I can explain it. And I was on ship and I was able to move about. I know that I only had a limited ability to move about, but I was in a room. There were cameras everywhere. Every time I'd stand in front of like a door, like the doors would just open just through a thought. All you had to do is think it, like open. I want to get, I want to go forward. There was a room where there was like lots of cameras. There was a being in there who looked what I would identify as like Palladian, if you're familiar with what the Palladians. Okay. And then I was able to walk down like a row. I was able to get into this other room that was like a stadium. And I remember I met this woman there and I recognized her, but I know that wasn't what she really looked like. But I think at that time she put the appearance of herself as something I could relate to, like someone that I knew, but didn't know. And I asked her like, what's in there? What's behind there? And she said, that's where all of our children go. She said, do you want to go there? And I was like, no, I don't. And she was like, oh, that's good. She said, what do you want? I said, I want to go home. So anyway, that was it. That was the next thing I knew. She was like, okay, fine. I walked down the hall. I walked in front of these doors. I was like, I want to go home. The doors opened. The next thing I knew, I was back where I started. So it's all telepathic. There's no words being expressed. It's just thought. But in any case, that was what that experience was. But what happened after that was, and I'm kind of jumping through pieces here because it was a big thing, But the next few weeks, there were these like what I would call downloads, like because I was still meditating through the night, and I'd get these like symbols, numbers, letters just cross my consciousness, across my awareness. Like they were downloading into me, and I'd be like, what is this? What is all of this about? What does all this mean? I remember being I was angry because I couldn't understand what was happening, and I was frustrated, and I didn't have anyone to talk to except my own team in the non-physical, right? And they would always say, you'll know when the time comes. You'll know when the time comes. And that is what happened. It ended up that's when I started doing DNA activations. Very quickly after that, I started realizing like, oh, I can activate these codes, these same kinds of codes in the DNA of my animals. That's where it started. And I'd see my dogs jumping like 6 foot, fences, walls and things. I'd be like, what? How is that possible? And then I started doing it for animals that I'd meet in Maui. Like I'd ask permission and, like working with it with energy healing with the animals, and I'd see them doing like amazing things, like lame horses getting up and just amazing stuff like that. And then I started asking people to do it, like a few people. I didn't know a lot of people, but I'd ask a few people in Maui, can I just do this? And you tell me, like, come over, let's do this. And you tell me what happens to you. So that's where it started. And then that became like, that's a huge part of what I do now.
So, okay, let me do this real quick. I want to look over to the chat and give a shout out to some of our people in the chat room. David Martin, thank you so much. Live light always. And $6 Million Man, we're so glad to see you here tonight. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to send them out here to Lori. But we're thrilled to have you guys in the chat room tonight checking out the show. One thing I want to touch on now, in your bio, you mentioned the collective. Is this the same group that you were speaking with? Are these the ones you were speaking with there?
So the collective, this is what I have, after years of unpacking that first contact experience. Those are what I call star family races. There's tons of star family races. Now we could call them, and I know you know this on your show, we could call them extraterrestrials, but the star family races are benevolent beings. They're interdimensional beings, so they're able to traverse dimensions, and they're extraterrestrial in the sense that they don't necessarily, for the most part, reside here on Earth. Some of those beings are inside the collective. So the collective is a group of thousands of beings who are interdimensional, extra-dimensional, and really from the so-called like higher realms and non-physical, who are all part of the beings that I interact with. I'm part of that collective, those collectives, I could say, because they include angels, guides, masters, teachers, loved ones, star family races, beings. The star family race beings, a lot of times they'll identify as a group called the fleet. So there's animals in there. Plants and minerals might come in. Crystals, different crystals will come in. So the collective is made up of thousands of beings who are at different frequencies of consciousness. And when I or anyone I'm working with, like clients or students, we want to learn something, or we need to heal something, or we're searching for some kind of truth on something, we just call forward the collective, and who are the beings within the collective that can answer or address the question or provide the energy healing that we need on any particular topic. And those beings will come forward. Or like even a weather pattern. If we want to understand, like, what's the purpose of this weather pattern? What is it here for? How is it serving? What's it meant to do? We can call forward the consciousness of a weather pattern even. Like there's consciousness in everything. So it's just a matter of asking. And my collective, or the collective that I'm part of, it's hundreds of sub-collectives, subgroups, like animal kingdom members. It's just groups upon groups of beings who want to share. And the only one, like not the only, but the major overlying or underlying absolute unifying truth of anyone in the collective is that they must serve the light. What that means is serve the expansion of consciousness or the evolution of consciousness in accordance with what I would say God, we could call it God's will. Now, if you don't like the word God, that's okay, right? Spirit, source, creator, the infinite, the all that is, the I am. There's lots of ways to reference that divine intelligence that is real. And it has a will for humanity and for all of creation. And that will is, we could call it evolution, expansion, upliftment, and overall, that agenda means ideally with harm to none. So all of the beings in the collective aren't aligned with that. Otherwise, they don't come in. They can't match that frequency. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, we do have another question from Live Light. I told you she's like she's our questionnaire here. Live Light. From your astral experiences, is there an explanation why Earth 3D life is so difficult? And how can we thrive with this dense, heavy frequency? Such a great question. I'm telling you, she's great.
That is such a great question. So, okay, so let's address that. So good. So is there an explanation why 3D life is so difficult? So there's multiple explanations, but let's look at it from the soul perspective and then from the human perspective. From the soul's perspective, we're eternal beings, and we come here so that we can advance and progress, because when we don't have a physical body, we don't have the same resistance or contrast that creates those experiences where we can progress. And as an eternal being of consciousness, when you have nothing to sort of resist, react, transform with, you're just you're being. And even though your being is blissful and happy and joyful, etc., beyond happiness, even love and beyond, there's the desire to expand and to up level and to progress in some way other than just being. So we come into this physical world so we can have these kinds of experiences that provide us with those opportunities to grow, to evolve, and to progress. Because the more we grow, the more we evolve, the more we progress, the more choice we have, actually, even though we sort of align our will more and more with this divine source, but the more choice we have in terms of what kinds of experiences would we like. In other words, maybe we want to go on and live on another planet somewhere. Maybe we want to live in a planet where everybody is love and light all the time. Like, we have more choice about how we'll progress. So that's the first main reason. But in the physical world, why it's so difficult is because this reality overall is governed by two, we could say three primary forces. So I mentioned the forces of so-called light, which is about expansion and upliftment overall, and evolution and growth. The other opposing force is the force of contraction. And we could call it the dark, but overall in that experience, there's a lot of secrecy or coercion or force or manipulation, or there could be hidden agendas in there. And so all of that is not really generally serving the greater good. It's serving private or secret or covert agendas. And even if it's not private or secret, it's personal agendas, right? It's the agendas that serve I, me, mine, even if it's not absolutely secret. So it's me over you. It's a top-down hierarchical, patriarchal, oligarchical type of system that we've been living in. And that system is providing so much contrast. It's not interested in serving the greater good of all. It's not interested in serving the light. It's interested in serving itself. So that experience there, and that's just born out of like people choosing personal agenda over the collective good. There's more to that story, of course, but that's the big picture of it. So I hope that makes sense.
Well, we've got that does, and we've got a couple more questions here. Yeah, let's pop up here. Liv, does the collective have any messages about the future of humanity?
Okay, well, I can go to a full channel if you want. I can channel through what they would like to offer, or I can just give you some answers of some of the things that they've said. Which do you want me to do? You can call them in. Want to get a channeling?
Well, I'll tell you what. As far we do have another question lined up, but if you want to, I mean, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do, Lori.
Let's do that. Just takes a matter of a little bit of breath for me to align. So blessings and greetings. We are here, and as has been stated, and as you have requested, we are representing on this day as the collective. And today, on this particular day, many beings in this particular collective include many of your guides, meaning our guides here united, our guides and guardians and teachers and masters, all united here on this day for this purpose. And we would like to address the question that was posed earlier regarding how we may, all of you, we, us, may continue to advance and progress and evolve in this experience of density, which was so eloquently asked earlier. And this is to say this, to become more and more conscious of, we will at this moment identify three specifics. First and foremost, what you think and what you believe. And this includes your mental plane, your mental field, what you think, believe, and perceive. For this is consciousness itself moving through your field. And if the thoughts that you are thinking and the beliefs that you have are not truly serving you in the best ways possible, it is certainly at your disposal to make changes regarding what you think and believe. And this is a way you can prepare for the future, because of course, if you are thinking or believing or perceiving that the future will be something scary or frightening to you, or something to be worried about, of course, you are placing that in your future. If you are worried or concerned about things, you are placing worry and concern into your future. If you have unconscious beliefs associated with limitations or lacks, other forms of doubts and worries, this is what you are creating in your future. So therefore, to be prepared for a better future, you must begin to address your mental plane and be consciously aware of what you think and believe and perceive, and begin to change the thoughts and beliefs which are not working for you, for your best. For if you believe and perceive that better things lie ahead, they will indeed. This is number 1. Number 2 is to become more consciously aware of what you emote and how you emote, what you feel and how you feel. For all of the emotions are electromagnetic energy residing within and around you. And these emotions are also creative in nature. So if your emotions are, for example, stressful or anxiety-ridden or fearful or fear-based or worry-based or full of doubt or frustration, or struggle, emotional struggles, those are the very energies you are placing into your reality based on your free will choice to feel them. You may think, believe, or perceive that you do not have the free will choice to what you feel, and this we would challenge you on. We would ask you and invite you to confront this, for it is not absolute truth. You are in control of what you feel once you understand and learn how to utilize the emotional body with more maturity, and to recognize that the emotions you experience are at your disposal in your free will choice. So that is number 2, to become more aware and conscious of the emotions and the emotional body. And number 3, what we would advise is for you to become more consciously aware of the fact that you are energy and consciousness. All of you, all of us are energy and consciousness, and all energy resides at different frequencies, different bandwidths. As you become more and more conscious of the fact that you are energy, you can change the energy that you are at any point in time and space, and this will then provide you to have experiences that are either more or less to your liking as you become more conscious of it. We are fast forwarding here, for we know there is a limitation on time in your reality.
Wow, that was all right. There we go. Well, Liv, you got your answer. I believe we all did, and that was really cool.
That helps.
And I'll tell you what, we've got one last question I want to pop up here from Mr. David Martin. And I think we all know what he's talking about here, but he goes, David says, what does 2025 look like after January 20th?
That's a good question. Okay, well, I could channel on this, but I don't know that we have necessarily the time for it. But what I will say is massive acceleration of consciousness. Massive acceleration.
That's the second time I've heard that.
Accelerated. To the point that some people will feel like their brains can't keep up. They can't keep up. And that's okay. The brain doesn't have to keep up. We're going to start utilizing consciousness in a new way. We're going to start utilizing more of our awareness, which is what the animals do. We're going to start becoming more consciously aware of energy. And again, that's not for because some people will just be like, they'll have breakdowns because they can't handle it. Yeah. But overall, accelerate, in a nutshell, with the time we have left, massive acceleration of consciousness, which is good. Good for you.
Well, let's do this real quick. Lori, this has been fantastic. Very interesting. We've there was so many things to talk about. I feel like we tried to get a little bit of everything in here within the short time that we have. But before we get out of here, where can the viewers, the watchers, the listeners learn more about you?
Yeah, well, first they can get a gifted DNA activation at LoriSpagna.com/free-gifts/DNA. So you can get a gifted DNA activation, learn about your DNA, why it's important, and how you can activate it, and you'll love it. It's really good. You'll get a class on it too. You can learn more about your star family races if you're interested in knowing more about the star family friends that we have at LoriSpagna.com/free-gifts/starseeds. And you can learn more about connecting and communicating with animals telepathically and how to help animals on a global scale if you're like me, an animal lover, at LoriSpagna.com/free-gifts/animals. And yeah, everything's at the website. Of course, I'm on all the major, I'm on YouTube, and you just search for my name, Lori Spagna. The website's LoriSpagna.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Lori, this has been a fantastic episode. I've really enjoyed, talking with you and, learned a lot. And, I got to say, thank you so much for coming on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. And we got to have you back sometime soon.
Danny, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it as well. And I'm really grateful to your amazing watchers, listeners, David and Liv, for all your great questions. And $6 Million Man, I see you guys there too. And I thank you guys
$6
so
million
much.
man. Got to do the sound effects. Absolutely. We got a great following here. And Lori, thank you so much. And hey, I look forward to talking to you again.
My pleasure. Me too.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Great questions tonight. Liv cranked them out. Like always, $6 Million Man, I hope you get to feeling better. David, fantastic question. I believe we're all wondering that. And, I believe we got a treat. We had a treat given to us this episode. So she did some channeling, which I think that's the first time we've had somebody do that. So definitely kind of cool. Guys, if you have not done so, be sure to tell your friends, tell your cousins, tell your sisters, tell your dogs, tell your cats to like and follow the podcast. Hit the like button. That helps too. And just spread the word. Let's get some more people in this chat room, streaming live Tuesday nights. Come on. I really like what we got going here. Let's keep it rolling. Guys, we are broadcasting live from the United Public Radio Network and a UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 in New Orleans. If you guys have not done so, be sure to head over to Patreon at Heed the World and make a little donation. That helps out our main man, Ryan Stacy at Tessa and experiencersupport.org. You can check out some really cool articles there, some really cool broken down investigations. Ryan, I nickname Ryan the Fun Police because sometimes, when there's something fun I want to believe, and Ryan's like, no, well, you got to look at it this way. That's just Ryan. But the cool thing is, where you're standing, you're going to get the truth with Ryan Stacy. So be sure to head over to experiencersupport.org and check that out. And if you guys have not done so, where you at? Show your boy, Danny Whitson, some love at Super Magic Boy on Instagram and at Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy on Facebook. I am a comedian magician by trade. If you'd like to come out and see a show sometimes, or, especially my Canadian folks, let me come to Canada. I want to come see you. Come see a show. I would love to see you guys face to face. But anyways, we'll be right back next Tuesday with a fantastic guest. And I'll have my guy back, Mr. Too Nice to Be Mean, Chris Green, will be back with us, taking care of all the techie stuff and the questions. And I'm sure it'll go a lot smoother. But anyways, like always, guys, I can't wait to talk to you guys next Tuesday. Paranormal Junkies, keep the paranormal normal. And I will see you next week. All right, that does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.